what's going on, y'all? T-Bob here.
And Jake as well.
And you're about to watch a little OTB LSU.
We're going to give you all the latest, greatest between LSU football, baseball, women's basketball, softball, and everything in between.
Bottom line, if you want to talk Tigers, keep it locked, subscribe, like it, and we hope you enjoy it. One man who will no longer be saying go Tigers is Brian Polian. Happy trails. A few months after he moved to that off-field, of course, if you listen to it, you probably know who Brian Polian is, but remember, he was kind of viewed as Brian Kelly's hand of the king.
Yeah.
And he was in many ways. He was the first hire made. They have been together for, I think, like decades. Listened to, multiple different spots throughout their careers. He was in charge of a lot of the roster management early on and putting together the incredibly tangled web jigsaw puzzle that was last year's roster, where you kind of build it fresh and you take in these Louisiana pieces and try to make them fit, and they did a hell of a job. Unfortunately, he was also special teams coach, and special teams didn't do anything well last year. And it's look, part of that is it's tough. Because part of it's definitely coaching, right? Like the scheme blocking in the Florida State game. We all talked about it forever. Then it was just inexcusable. Not knowing that you can advance the ball in the block kick in the SC championship. But then, there are a few of those. At the same time, I do think a bit of maybe the overall coverage and statistical struggles do come from a bit that you have a roster that was so kind of cobbled together. So you're missing some of the really good depth that the best special team schools tend to have. But whatever the reason was, it didn't go well. He was moved out of that job into an administrative role, and now he has decided to leave completely to go be the athletic director at his old alma mater, John Carroll University.
Yeah, and if you look at where he is going to, it's got a long list of, you've got David Caldwell, who used to be the Jags general manager. They've got the Texans' current general manager. These are all alums of the school. When you look at Tom Telesco, who's the Chargers GM, Don Shula, Greg Roman, the longtime NFL coach.
These are all John Carroll
These
alums.
are all John Carroll alums. I mean, they've got a ton. The Las Vegas Raiders current GM, John Carroll alum. Brandon Staley coached there. He was the defense coordinator there, the Chargers head coach.
What?
Yeah.
What did they do? What did they have, some sort of expert GMing class or something? I don't get it.
They must. I mean, player-wise, London Fletcher, shout out, one of the most underrated players in the history of football, went there as well. So they have a ton of former and current NFL GMs that are alums there. And again, the wingest coach of all time, and Don Shula. So it's a place that certainly has a track record of producing executives at a very, very high level. Now he's going to be the athletics director there, and probably best for everybody, right? I was telling you, T, I heard this on Saturday morning that this was about to come across the wire. I also told you, like my conversation with him at the spring game didn't seem like someone who's going to be here for a long time, just by some of the verbiage that he was using there. So I don't know how long it's been in the works, but it really feels like a good thing for everyone involved. He goes, and now he's at a place where if you want to be an executive, if you want to continue to move up, if that's not your end goal, you can certainly do it, because a lot of guys have already done it. And then for LSU, now they get to, completely, it's like you're moving somebody within the department. Sometimes that can be tough. Now it's complete. You know who you are. You know what division you're in charge of, because I'm not sure how many pieces had to be moved whenever he had to move from on the field to a different role. But now everybody kind of gets a clean break.
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, I wonder, was this inevitable, or is this truly an opportunity came up that was just one that made sense for his life? Because on a human level, I can empathize and understand a couple of things. First off, last year must have been hard, right? You're in this incredible spotlight, and the portion of the actual on the field portion that you are in charge of, which arguably was less important than the work that he did with the roster in the offseason, right? Actually, I would say is less important. But the on-the-field portion that is the most visible, you really struggled with. And so you faced mountains of criticism, right? Because, some games felt like they were cost with this. So mountains of criticism. Your kids are hearing it, your family's hearing it, your wife hearing it, you're hearing it. People are you feel like people are being nice to your face, so they go in and talk behind your back. It's in the media. It's just it's everywhere, right? and you're already going through this whirlwind move with like a culture change and all these other sorts of things. And so, yeah, I mean, I understand if your alma mater says, hey, do you want to come set some roots, be an AD for a while, raise your family here? I'm sure John Carroll is a very nice, like a beautiful campus. What part of the country is John Carroll in, actually?
It's in Ohio.
Okay.
The John Carroll Blue Streaks.
And look, he said, well, it was a difficult decision. It was clear to my wife, Laura, and me that it was the right choice for our family and where our children are in their lives. We are excited to set down roots and serve at a place that we love. So I hope that he gets to do that, right, and live a bit more of a normal life, set down roots, and do everything that's going to be required of him up there. I do wonder. Why I ask if this was inevitable, because if it is, then like you said, clean break, whatever, move on, everybody's fine. But I really liked him in that GM role. I know that he has a passion for roster management. I felt like what they did in the transfer portal was spectacular last year. He deserves a ton of the credit for that. They were solid in the portal again this year. Recruiting has been great. And I feel like a lot of that kind of fell under his purview. And maybe I'm wrong here, right? The people inside the building could be listening to this. Oh, you know what you're talking about. That always happens, right? But guess what? Y'all don't give us that information. We're not privy to it. We just know the titles that people have been giving outside looking in. And so I wonder two things, Jake. How much actual roster management skill are you losing here? And do they have people ready to place? And then I wonder, did I make too much of him being kind of the right-hand man to Brian Kelly? Or is this like Kelly's hand of the king? Basically saying, look, court life is just too much. And for me, it's just not worth it anymore. And I want to go retire to my landed estate and just go take care of my little, my lands and my fiefdom over there.
Yeah, and I would also love to, kind of find out exactly how much he had in this portal. Like last year, I think we know.
Yeah.
And he was the first one here, first one hired, and you're getting everything ready to go. How about this cycle? Because you brought in some primetime players in this cycle. You've done really well in the high school recruiting, and so I wonder, like, what's that been like? Because you were still an on-the-field coach when it kind of started, and then you go into the GM role, like, who's really been behind the scenes? And say, hey, we'll do some investigative reporting. We'll figure out exactly what was going on there. And also, do you replace the role that you created?
Yeah,
because you created that role for him. Okay, well, how important is that role? Are you going to bring somebody else in? Because if you bring somebody else in that role, it feels like, okay, well, there's value in that role, and they want somebody in that position.
I mean, I think you absolutely have to have a general manager nowadays, or a college position akin to what an NFL general manager is. There's just too much. There's too many things on the head coach's plate. There's too many things for one person to have enough time in the day to manage. Like, there needs to be someone who is committed full-time to exactly what Brian Polian was, which was roster management, building the roster through recruiting, portal, looking at who's going to enter the portal, looking at who may enter the portal, creating your little spy network of informants throughout the Southeast. So it's weird. I think a lot of people, Jake, will see this story and just kind of, happy trails, whatever, and just kind of keep it moving. But I think, as we've seen here, with a little further analysis, it actually carries a bit more weight with it than you potentially think. And we'll know soon how they feel about that GM role. And if they don't hire someone, well, then you know what? Maybe this was all kind of a foregone conclusion, right? But
that's what I'm saying. Like, if they don't hire someone, what was the real value of this position?
Then maybe not that big of a deal.
Right. Was it made just for this one person?
Yeah. And so time will tell. I think they should, but again, maybe they already have someone basically doing it, but without giving the title and the money. That's a classic business technique.
But, I mean, again, like to what you said earlier, like, we know the roster when he first got here and the players that he brought in. And, through the portal, you're trying to find guys from Louisiana. So we know that he's been involved in the roster before. Like, I'd like to see how much he was kind of in this new role. Like, what was the main objective in this new role? Yeah. Was it transfer portal? Was it high school? Was it a combination of both? Was it checking the numbers every single day? Was it everything that we're talking about here? Because I do agree with you, T. Like, you need that person. You need somebody, because the head coach now, they can't even call plays. Like, think how many head coaches actually still call plays on offense or defense. Of the top 10 teams, I would say Lincoln Riley and Norvell at Florida State.
Yeah, and then Ryan Day's about to give up.
Yeah, he's already given them up.
So he Heartline passed the spring test?
I mean, I think so.
Okay.
I mean, that's the word that all the Buckeyes I've got to work with every single day
Okay, old
tell
Bobby
me.
C knows.
Okay, so
there's
I
a lot
think
of chatter on the cruise.
the Buckeye Cruise. That is
I'll never get over
that
it.
is a July 10th segment. We're going to talk just about the Buckeye Cruise. But think about that. Like, only those guys, and it's hard to even figure or find more guys that even call plays because, and they'll tell you, I don't have time to game plan and to give it what it needs to be able to go out there and be successful. Why is that? Because you have so many other things that you're dealing with. Yes, the things that you're always dealing with as a head coach and going to events and doing all these different things. But like we see it, like BK now, like there's NIL stuff, right? And
Yes.
you got to be out there, and you've got to the collective, and you got to be, pretty close tied in with them. So that portion of it, the NIL portion of it, the transfer portal, like it is something that is forever moving. Even when it's not open, you still have players that are in the portal, right? We'll talk about some of those players later on. You've got to worry about that. You have to worry about roster management. You have to worry about keeping your own team happy every single day. So all of those things, and I'm telling you, I've talked to all these coaches, like I can't even come up with a game plan like I need to, like the game plan deserves. So you bringing somebody in to help you with all of that, to your point, T, is almost something that is a necessity. Like you have to have it.
Wow, Jake, what incredible takes.
I mean, those guys, they're just the best.
I think so. And if you think so, again, hit the like button, subscribe, ring the bell so you get notifications when we post every single day here on OTB LSU.